Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. I'm your host, Terry. Again, filling in for Tim while he's on an extended vacation. One of the things I wanted to talk about before we get into the main part of our video tonight is where we've been traveling, because this is Tim Travels. So last week I picked up in a town called Peshtigo, Wisconsin, which is north of Green Bay. And it's a little town, not a lot going on there, but it's famous for something that happened during the 19th century. So in October of 1871, there was a fire, but it wasn't just any fire. It was probably the most deadly wildfire, at least in recorded history, and it's called the Peshtigo fire. And it took between 1,500 and 2,500 lives, and it burned in the area of the Door Peninsula, Southern Door Peninsula, which is up towards Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, where I used to live, and also north of Green Bay through Peshtigo up into the southwest corner of the UP. And just to give you an idea, it burned 1.2 million acres. And it just came from really dry conditions. People used to set fires to clear land for crops, and there was that plus a perfect combination of a cold front coming through, the really strong winds, and it just created this firestorm that was a huge calamity. People jumped into the Peshtigo River that runs through town there. Some drowned, some died of hypothermia because it was October and it was northern Wisconsin, and it's pretty cold up there then. So it was just a crazy event. Another town that I went through the other day, I'll give you one of the billboards for the town. 14,000 square feet of square meat. Yeah, I'm talking about Austin, Minnesota, the home of Hormel, which is the company that makes Spam. They have a Spam museum there. So if you're ever going across I-90 through southern Minnesota, you might want to stop in and check out the Spam museum and Hormel. Anyway, a couple other items of housekeeping. I wanted to give a couple more shout outs to people that have been influential to me on YouTube. The first is Scott at Russian Trucking. Scott started out can't remember the name of the company, but last I knew he was at Night, and he was pretty influential. He also did a lot of great videos on just technique, driving technique, parking, stuff like that, as well as dash cam videos. And the other thing he did that I always thought was helpful, which by the way Nick and Carla used to do, is product reviews. So we're going to try to incorporate a little bit of that stuff into what we do too. So I guess we're flattering them with our mimicry. The other person I want to give a shout out to is Lily Out the Box. She's an owner-operator, a true owner-operator. Like, she just went out, bought her own truck, and lately she's been looking for a trailer. And she did a really cool video that she posted just a couple of days ago, where she basically reviews her entire year. And it's helpful for lots of reasons. One is that it just kind of gives the history that she had during 2020, but it's helpful for all of us to kind of look back on the year that we had and find out, just to see where we're going. And it seems like it might be so anyway, I just wanted to give a shout out to them. It might be a good time to introduce my co-driver, Beatrice. She's awake now. She's done with her shift. B, come here. You want to say hi to everybody? Come here. Can you say hi? She's a little camera shy, but maybe we'll get her up here. It's kind of time to rest. Anyway, so let's talk about some things that are probably going through a lot of people's minds, especially that tune into YouTube trucking channels, and that is, how do I get into this business and what am I going to do once I'm there? So there's two main avenues that people have to get their CDL A. One is to go to a truck driving school. The other is, and you know, truck driving schools give you a lot of options in that you can pick what company you want to go to, and you're not going to be under contract to any company because they paid for your training. Now, the downside to school, of course, is that you have to pay to go to the school, and some of them are pretty expensive. The other thing is you're not getting paid while you're there to learn, and so it could take several weeks to get through their program. And then, of course, you have to pass your CDL road test. Now, before that, though, you have to get your permit. And one thing I would recommend that I did when I got my permit, and by the way, I took the tests, you know, the basic standard test, combination test, air brakes, hazmat. I also have a tanker endorsement, doubles and triples. So I use this app called CDL Genie, and I was able to use the app using mostly just the free materials that they provided, as well as getting a copy of my state's commercial driver's manual. And the combination of those two, I was able to get through all those tests and get my permit. And so, you know, once you have your permit, you go to school, you graduate from school, meaning that you got your CDL. Now you can pick a company. And I'm going to share a story that happened recently, and it maybe illustrates kind of my view on how to pick a company and you know, where to go. Obviously, when you're looking to pick a trucking company to work for, it's got to be a company that's willing to hire you. Every company has different standards and different requirements, different rules, and you need to understand what those standards are and what those requirements are before you go into getting a job with that company. The last thing you want to do is get, you know, hired, conditionally hired by a company and find out after you go to orientation that you can't meet all their requirements, as it turns out. The other thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to get, quote, hired, but not having been vetted by the company. And what do I mean by that? I mean, like, the company didn't even do a background check. They didn't drug test you. They didn't check your MVR. They just said, oh yeah, come on to our school. There is one company out there that I understand that does that. I'm not going to say their name, but they originated in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And I've been told by people that started out there that they'll just hire, quote unquote, tons of people, send them on a Greyhound bus to wherever their classes are, and I think it's out in Colorado. And then when you get there, they start the intake process, the vetting process. And a lot of people never make it past that point because they don't meet the criteria. But the company is bringing you on board to get tax credits or other benefits. And I know when I hired on with one company, even though I was self-employed when I took the job, they were, one of the very first things they wanted me to do is fill out paperwork, maybe even the first thing, other than after I submitted my application online. They wanted me to fill out paperwork saying that I was a veteran and that I had been unemployed. And That was like super important to them. So just be aware of that type of behavior. You want to know going in that you've met all their requirements before you get on a bus or head to their orientation. Now let me say this about getting on a bus. If you don't have any other way to get there and that's all they're offering, but you really want to work for that company, then you're going to ride a bus across the country. You know, people say that it's low class. People say that it's, you know, shows it's a bad company. I don't know that that's the case. I personally wouldn't want to do it, and especially during the coronavirus, I think it's unwise to do. A lot of companies that are reputable and have a little bit more on the ball are offering people rental car reimbursement, or maybe even to pay for a rental car. That seems to be a preferred option. I mean, and candidly, you know, if you got to rent a car to go somewhere, even if you're going from the West Coast to the East Coast or vice versa, you're only going to need to rent a car for 3 days. Hopefully you can come up with that kind of money and get that done. But the story I want to tell you is that I was in a truck stop. I think it was down in North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. It was a Love's, and I just happened to be, you know, getting a soda refill or whatever I was doing, and there weren't many people around at the diesel desk. And so the gentleman that was working there was talking to me, and he said he had just finished his CDL school, and he asked me who I would recommend working for. And I said, well, you know, I said, I could tell you who I worked for. He said, well, some people are saying Schneider's a good company. And I said, I personally wouldn't want to work for Schneider, but I said, you need to pick the company that's best for you. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. And a lot of times it doesn't even matter what their experience is, because you may have a great DM or a great relationship with people that are important there. And you may have a different attitude about things. There may be things that bothered other people that just roll off your back. So you have to think about it. It's always an individual decision. And even in companies, you know, it varies from person to person. And so I said, you know, you need to pick the company that's right for you. But what I also added was there's a secret to being an over-the-road truck driver and being successful at it. And that secret is this: you got to drive a truck. It's, you know, everybody worries about the money that they're going to be making, or how many cents per mile, or detention pay, or breakdown pay, layover. What are they getting for this? What does this pay? At the end of the day, driving a truck is all about driving a truck. Everything else is just extra stuff. Surplusage is a big word for that. But you gotta put the miles in. If you work for an over-the-road company and you don't want to drive a lot of miles, you're probably not going to make good money, even if your mileage rate is high, even if you're at 70 cents a mile. If you only want to drive 250 miles a day, you're still not going to make much money. So that should be the calculus, right? That should be what an individual is thinking of. Now, there are some companies that are entry-level companies, and they take drivers from schools with no experience, and they take people into their own schools and pay for training. Now, obviously, if a company pays for your training, holds the training that you go through, then you're going to owe them something on the back end. There's a quid pro quo, if you will. There's nothing wrong with that either, because maybe you don't have the money for truck driving school. I went to Knight's truck driving school. Knight took care of a lot of stuff, made the process pretty easy on the driver trainees and then on the drivers. But here's probably the most important thing, to me at least, when considering a trucking company, is how are you going to get trained? Because when you come out of CDL school, you know how to do 4 things, basically. You know how to do straight back, offset back, and a parallel parking. And the 4th thing you know how to do is, well, I should say 5 things. The 4th thing you know how to do is a pre-trip, and the 5th thing you know how to do is not wreck while you're driving around the block a few times and crossing some railroad tracks and making some left turns. If you can do those 5 things, you're going to get your CDL. But no CDL examiner tests you on whether or not you know how to drop and hook trailers. They don't test you on whether or not you know how to slide the tandems, or what to do with, the tandems to get the weights right on your tandems, drives, and steers. They don't test thousands of things that you need to do or know on a daily basis to be a successful truck driver. They don't teach you how to work a Qualcomm. They don't teach you how to do any number of things that you're gonna have to do. So you got to find a company, whether or not you got your CDL already or you are going to go through their program. You want to find a company that has a robust, a solid training program with decent professional trainer drivers. I mentioned this in one of my previous videos. I had a great trainer at night. He was professional, easy to get along with. I have 0 complaints. Did I learn some stuff after I got off his truck? Well, sure. But I was not ill prepared. I was ready to navigate the world of being a truck driver as a solo truck driver. But there's so many things that you need to learn that, these companies that'll say, oh, we're going to put you out there for 30 hours or 3,500 miles or whatever. That's not enough. It's just not enough. You're not going to see everything. You're not going to see bad weather, winter weather. Now, I didn't ride with my trainer during the winter, but I could tell you that I drove while on his truck through some incredible torrential rainstorms down in Louisiana and Texas at night. Not at night, the company, but during the night. Mountains, just different stuff, backing into places that were a hassle, making minor mistakes, getting corrected, fixing it, doing the next step correctly. That's all super important. So don't worry about what the truck color is. Don't worry about, they drive, Freightliners, and you want to be with a company that has Peterbilts. No one cares. I mean, it doesn't make you more money. You need a reliable truck that you can log miles. That's the bottom line. And you need a company that's reliable and has a robust training program. Because if you don't get that, you're going to be trying to teach yourself something that's not going to come naturally to most people. And the mistakes you make are going to be on you. Once you have that CDL, they don't, the police, the DOTs, plaintiffs' lawyers, they don't care that you didn't get good training. All they care about is that you have a CDL and you just wrecked a truck and you hurt somebody. That's going to be on you 110%. Just remember that. No one else out here is going to take responsibility for your mistakes. So it's super important to get a good trainer and a company that values training. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that. And if you want to comment, I'll get back to you. We can address stuff at other times in other videos, but I hope that everybody that's deciding to take this on, they've really considered what it involves. Again, driving a truck is about driving a truck. You know, you're gonna be out of the house and you're gonna be on the road, and it can be a good career for a lot of people, but you need to consider what you're doing before you go into it. Again, appreciate everybody. Please subscribe, like, comment, and we'll be back with you soon. Bye.